Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we are going to be doing an update to the entire Reddit blackout situation. Now, I made a video talking about this a couple days ago. You may have heard about it on social media or on Twitter, somewhere like that, right? Because it's been a pretty major situation in the social media world. Reddit is one of the most popular websites on the internet, and a lot of people use it, including myself, for, different purposes, right? There's people who use it to interact with communities that they're passionate about. Me personally, like I said in my last video, I really only use Reddit when I'm looking something up online and the top result happens to be like a Reddit thread about that, whatever it is I'm searching. But Reddit is currently going through a massive blackout protest, and I talked about the reason behind this in my last video talking about this whole subject, but I'll give you guys a real quick refresher if you don't have time to watch the other video first. Obviously, I do recommend you do so, but essentially Reddit is now trying to change their API, which allows like third-party access for bots and whatnot. They're trying to start charging for access to this, and what this means essentially is subreddits may be faced, or more particularly the bots that subreddits use, may be faced with massive API costs. So basically the bots and whatnot that help moderate a lot of subreddits and help do a lot of useful functions on the platform might become much more expensive to actually keep running, and might create a pretty massive money pit going into Reddit, right? And I mean, the people who make money in all of this would be Reddit, but the Reddit community is obviously not thrilled. They are not very happy or pleased with the idea with these changes and whatnot, and so they've done what's called a blackout protest, where a ton of the top subreddits on Reddit have basically went private to restrict people from actually accessing the page, willfully shutting themselves down to try and basically hurt Reddit and make Reddit make their decision change, because obviously if a whole bunch of the top subreddits are no longer available, that really hurts the usability of the Reddit website, and well, that's kind of the point. They're trying to send a message to Reddit that these API changes are unwelcome in the community, and well, Reddit appears to be, for now, standing tall through the entire thing. So, Reddit is an incredibly large social media platform with collective billions of members across its many hyper-specific forums or subreddits. These range from things like discussions about sports and games or super niche topics. However, Reddit has made a massive change to how it shares information with third-party apps via its API or application programming interface by charging for a previously free service. This means apps like Apollo, which brings an alternative to the main app, could see charges of up to $20 million per month for access to this data, and the ensuing chaos surrounding it, subreddit moderators and admins have gone on a blackout. This is done by restricting public access to the forums and closing it off to subscribed members. Large-scale subreddits with millions of users like basketball-centric r/NBA with nearly 7 million members, or ones focused on cute things like r/aw, 34 million users, have shut their doors to the general public until things have been resolved, and it's basically part of the ongoing blackout. So obviously, when you have apps that might be having to basically spend tens of millions of dollars a month to even really operate through the Reddit API, you're gonna really start to see problems. So we've kind of known about this for a few days now, right? And as I said in my last video, if you guys remember, one of my fears for this entire Reddit blackout thing actually ended up coming true. So as I said in my last video, this whole Reddit blackout is really only going to work if, well, let's just say some very harsh pressure is basically put on the company, right? Like, they have to actually feel some sort of consequences for the entire action if they want to basically have the decision by Reddit basically reversed. I mean, they're not just going to randomly come out for no reason and change their mind on this. I mean, this is something that could definitely make the platform some money here, and that's really where the problem comes in. These platforms are trying to make money. It's not even really just Reddit. Like, a lot of social medias over the last couple years have started to introduce very controversial paid features onto their platform. Although I will admit, this is probably one of the worst proposed changes that I've seen a social media page make. So Reddit, though, has apparently had a leaked memo come out where the CEO of Reddit doesn't really seem too, I would say, scared by the blackouts, right? They don't really seem too concerned. In fact, according to this leaked memo here, there is not really anything that Reddit has to worry about as of right now. So now over 300 subreddits will be indefinitely closed, leaving massive quantities of information and discussion behind lock and key. A moderator by the name of Spicy Thunder 335 has written a post detailing the continued issues and confirming that massive subreddits like r/music, 32.3 million users, and r/videos, 26.6 million users, have coordinated to remain closed. However, as Reddit is still a vital service to some, key subreddits will remain open for support. Things like r/stop drinking and news from Ukraine being posted in its own subreddit, quote, obviously outweighs any of these concerns. The Verge managed to obtain an email in which Huffman, the CEO of Reddit by the way, stated that Reddit hasn't seen, quote, significant revenue impact, nor does it expect the blackout to continue for a majority of subreddits. This memo has caused over 300 subreddits to rally behind the blackout. Whether or not other communities continue to revolt remains to be seen, but some of the largest communities on the site itself could remain down for as long as Reddit sticks to its guns. So it appears that this whole Reddit blackout protest is starting to, if anything, evolve and reach new stages, if that makes any sense. So this memo, by the way, it was leaked. It wasn't like this was intentionally put out or, it was like meant to really see the light of day in the public eye or whatever, but things like this happen all the time. This is definitely not the first company to ever have something leak, so definitely something we're gonna have to address here because this is important. So now over 300 subreddits are indefinitely closed. They are now basically evolving in this whole blackout protest to move to an indefinite protest. Now you might remember in my last video we were talking a pretty good portion at the time of subreddits were only participating in what they were calling like a 48-hour blackout, right? Which really isn't that much time. That's only pretty much 2 days that they were suspecting they were going to basically shut down Reddit with this entire blackout protest. And now that they've kind of seen the conditions and the results of what they've done in the first few days, it looks like a few subreddits, well, a few being a couple hundred subreddits, have now aimed their new weapon, right? They're adjusting course, if that makes sense, and they will be going indefinitely, basically meaning that until Reddit gives in to their deciding factor here, they're claiming they will not be reopening their subreddits. So whether it takes Reddit, 1 day to decide to change the API decision, or if it takes months, they have committed to this blackout protest, right? So this memo states, there hasn't been significant revenue impact and that Reddit is basically going to stick to its guns. They're going to try and wait out this protest. So now it's become way more of just a standoff. Like the company outright has acknowledged the protests and they don't really seem to have too much respect for them. They don't see them as really a threat to their bottom line. They think that these Redditors are going to buckle and cower and eventually just fucking fold and reopen their subreddits. Now, I think it's pretty apparent that the few days, I guess, so far of this entire Reddit blackout were not going to bring significant revenue impact, as it's quoted as in this article, right? So the reason behind that is, well, there just simply hasn't been enough time. I mean, they've only really been doing this Reddit blackout for like 1 or 2 days at this point. That isn't really enough to shut off the tap water, you know what I mean? A company like Reddit, they're going to be able to go 2 days without service, right? It's not like this is some make it or break it social media that's right on the cusp of making itself profitable or something, right? Reddit is a massive platform, so it's just a standoff now, and I guess we'll have to wait and see who kind of blinks first here, but I do suspect if this does continue and more subreddits continue to join in the indefinite blackout protest, that eventually we will start to see some sort of revenue impact for Reddit. And I think at that point they probably will kind of start changing the way that they address this entire thing, if that makes sense, right? Like once the money really starts becoming a problem and they're like, hey, by the way, continuing this protest has knocked our profits down 50% or whatever, realistically that's the only way Reddit's going to listen, because it's clear the CEO and probably other leaders in the company don't really have a lot of respect for the blackout protest. They don't think that it's something that's going to last, so we'll have to wait and see about that. But one thing I just kind of wanted to point out is I think it's just like, this is a perfect example, but this is just so hilarious, like that these massive social media and tech companies constantly keep falling into this trap, and it's one that we saw really kind of unfold in the dot-com bubble burst, I feel like. Obviously this happened before, but like in this specific type with like social media and tech companies, I really think this is a problem that should be addressed at some point, right? Over the last couple decades, we've seen these like online and social media companies really kind of come to life, right? And they'll skyrocket in these valuations because investors obviously see the potential, right? Who couldn't see the potential in something like a Facebook or a Twitter or a Reddit, right? But the issue is these companies, they scale so fucking quickly, right? Like they dump all all of their money that they get into scaling as fast as they can, getting as many users as they can, and then you get into a Reddit situation, right, where they get all these users, they get billions of combined users across all their subreddits and whatnot, and then they realize, oh shit, over the last however many years, we forgot to actually build the business, like there's no real significant income coming in or whatever, right, like we're not making ends meet in some way, and then they're like, oh, well, we'll just kick the bucket down the road, right, we'll make the monetizable thing come along later, right, first we'll get all these users and we'll build the product that they know and love, and then we'll start monetizing them for it. And then when this kind of happens, I've noticed a trend where like they'll build up all these users and they'll build their platform up and whatnot. Then, you know, they do the promised thing. They start trying to roll in the paid features and the bullshit that makes them money that people don't like. And then they end up kind of like ruining a good thing. They end up kind of destroying their platform or like destroying their reputation with their community because they didn't actually like flesh out the business concept first. They just kind of rushed and sped run the users or whatever, right? And that's kind of like what Reddit did in this situation. Like, yeah, they got all these users, they got all these people using the platform, but at what cost? Now, you know, they're claiming that they need to monetize this API or whatever, which has historically been free, and that's obviously pissed off pretty much everybody on the platform. Like, what can you really do at this point? Because, I mean, they obviously want to really monetize the API and make a shit ton of money from it, but the community doesn't really seem to be willing to let that happen. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how this works itself out. Obviously, either Reddit as a company is going to have to cave into the protest, or the protesters will have to cave into Reddit. Whichever one ends up happening first, we'll see, and when it happens, of course, I will let you guys know here on the channel, so make sure, if you're brand new around here on the channel, you hit the subscribe button for more updates. But with that being said, everybody, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers, your support helps the channel tremendously, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about the Reddit protests and signing out.